Hi guys, this is Sarah Hickman from Sarah Hickman Designs and Paint with Sarah Hickman Designs. I am so happy that you guys downloaded the at-home paint party checklist and chicken stencil. So today in this video, I'm actually going to walk you through how to create this entire painting using your chicken stencil. This is exactly how all courses with Paint with Sarah Hickman Designs go, and so I'm really excited to share this with you. As you know, you got your checklist and then you got your stencil. I have a stencil here as well, so we will be utilizing that and some other supplies. Let's go ahead and talk about the supplies. You're going to want your stencil. You're going to need a scissors. That like totally flipped almost to my eye. A scissors, some tape. This is a washi tape. You want something that's not going to stick to your canvas very strong, but hold the stencil in place. And then a paintbrush. This is a flat brush in size about an 8, probably is what this is. This is just a medium flat brush that was in a value pack of paintbrushes. You're going to want whatever colors are going to suit your color scheme. So here I've chosen antique white, and then I actually am sending this off to my mom, so I pulled some colors that I'm actually going to mix together to make the chicken. So we have yellow flame, lime tree, and crisp green that we'll be mixing together to make our chicken. You need water, paper towels, and something to hold your paint on. Now I've already squirted out my paint onto my palette. So you'll want to go ahead and squirt some paint onto your plate or paper plate that you're using, and we'll go ahead and get started. Guys, I realized when I was telling you about the supplies, I did not tell you you need something to paint on. So this is our canvas that we're painting on. It is a stretched 8 by 10 canvas. So when we cut out our stencil, it is going to fit on our canvas, filling up almost the whole thing because this is an 8.5 by 10 size chicken. So this is the canvas that we're going to be using. I originally was going to paint the background the antique white and then make the chicken green, but I actually think I'm going to go the other way. So you want to grab a paper towel. You don't need tons, but you just want one. You want to get your brush wet. So dip it in your water, but you only want it damp. So you are actually going to dry off the majority of that excess water. Now I did squirt my 3 colors here next to each other because I am going to just be mixing these all together. So this is lime tree, yellow flame, and crisp green. And I am just going to mix all 3 of these together because the color in my mom's kitchen is this apple-y, light green, almost a dusky green. It probably has some gray in it or so. So we're just going to kind of use this apple green color, kind of like a Granny Smith apple. If you don't want to mix colors, you can just pick up whatever colors you want at the store. I do buy the paints for Paint with Sarah Hickman Designs at Walmart so that you are able to get all of the exact supplies that I am using during the course locally. All right, so I've mixed all my colors. My paintbrush is loaded up with paint, and I am just going to start painting here in the center. I always start in the center. You don't have to. But since I am loaded up with quite a lot of paint, I'm just going to kind of go in this diagonal motion to get the majority of that paint off my brush. So then I can go to a corner and go out from the center. So we're just laying down our base coat that we are painting our background. And this is not going to be a super complex painting. And in other courses, you actually won't be using stencils. You'll be kind of freehanding the different items in the painting, utilizing basic shapes. Some have stencils, most right now do not. Okay, so this canvas is a little warped, so I'm just going to kind of hold it down here in the corner so it doesn't flip all around on me while I'm painting. So you can use an X stroke, you can use just straight up and down lines. We'll be using both. You just want to completely cover your canvas first. So that thin layer of paint is going to help us with all of our strokes here in a moment. Okay, so as you can see, we can see the strokes, we can see where we picked up our brush and stuff like that. So you're going to load up your brush and you're just going to go either from left to right or right to left if you're left-handed, top to bottom or bottom to top. Either way, you just want to go all the way across the canvas in the same direction. This is going to make your canvas look smooth. If your paintbrush ever sticks, just go ahead and pick up a little bit more paint. You don't need a lot. And start pulling it across again. Okay, so for our next task, so we have that painted, so we're going to slightly pick up the edge of our painting, and we want to cover the edge of our canvas with our same background color. So when this is hanging on the wall, it is not showing the white canvas. So then you're just going to turn it, paint the other end, set it back on its flat side, turn it the other end, and pull the green across this end. Then when I have my three sides, I come back in and I just make sure the top doesn't have tons of glops over the edge. Carefully turn it around because you are wet on this side, and paint this fourth side. Okay, and then just carefully lay it down on your painting surface. Okay. You can rinse off your brush. And then again, dry it off. I had some paint on the metal portion there, so I'm just going to give it a second rinse to make sure none of that paint got down in the bristles. Dry it off. Now we are going to let this sit. Typically in one of the more complex courses, we walk away from this at this point and let it dry for 20 minutes or so. We still may walk away, I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see how dry it gets when we're done. So we're going to take our chicken, and our goal for our chicken stencil is to utilize the outside of the chicken. Now, you can choose to utilize the inside of the chicken, meaning placing the chicken on the canvas after you cut the chicken out. I am going to suggest using the outside. So when you cut out your chicken, you want to do your best to keep the outside intact. So, like many of my digital stamps, the chicken has a rather thick line that you are able to use when cutting it out. The only problem that we're going to run into is right here in the feet, and we will just have to freehand some green in there with the final touches. So go ahead and just cut out your chicken, being careful not to hit your canvas if you're on top of it like I am. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to use it like a stencil, you don't want to take the time to cut it out, you can use a light box and trace the lines on the back of the chicken. And then lay it on your canvas and trace the top lines, which then would transfer your pencil lines onto your canvas. When you do that though, you do need to make sure that you are using a dry canvas. This is not going to be the easiest around the tail. I can see that now. And that's again because we're trying to keep it together. You probably could also use like a craft knife to just cut along the edges as well. I promise I'm cutting it out with the scissors. You probably can hear me off camera twisting and turning the paper and stuff. I just really don't want it to hit my canvas. So I'm kind of doing it for here. Maybe I'll move the camera just a little bit. So I am doing this in real time. And that's another thing with the videos themselves. If you were to buy other Paint with Sarah Hickman design courses, they're all done in real time. So I am painting right along with you. I'm painting the base layers. I'm walking you through exactly what I am doing. When I say that it needs 20 minutes to dry, I too am walking away from the painting, fully letting it dry. Sometimes it takes more than 20 minutes, so that might be something you have to come back when your painting is dry to continue. You are able to use these paintings in your own at-home painting parties. Yeah, I'm just going to finish cutting out his head here. And I do love to see your art. So please make sure that you share your canvases across social media using the hashtag paintwithSHd. Okay, if I were to be using the inside space of my chicken, I would want to make sure to cut this part out here as well. But I am not using the inside of the chicken. I am going to be using the outside of the chicken. But we will have to wait for our canvas to completely dry before we can lay this down. One thing I will suggest is taking a piece of tape and taping where you cut into your chicken. You can always fold it and just start right at the line so that you don't have to do this part. especially if you're using the inside of the chicken. So I'm just going to pull off a piece of the washi tape that I'm using, and I am going to tape this back together. Because then I don't have to worry about it sliding around on me later when I'm putting it on the canvas itself. So when this is dry, because we don't want our colors to bleed together, and if we were to do this while it was wet, that's exactly what would happen. But we are going to take our chicken and we'll be putting it on top of the canvas, filling in those spaces. However, this needs to dry. So we will be back. Probably in like, I'm going to say 10 minutes. That's probably about how long it needs because it's already starting to get dry in the corner. So I am going to, with the magic of video, be back in just a few seconds, but you can go ahead and pause this video, wait about 10 minutes, and come on back. Okay guys, so it's been about 10 minutes, and it's probably closer to actually like 7 or so. And my canvas is pretty much dry. So I hope yours is as well. If not, just go ahead and hit pause and come back when it's dry. Now, if you look closely, you can see that mine is still a little wet right there, actually. It'll be okay. It's just tacky. But you can kind of tell that mine is slightly distressed looking because of the strokes I used. So I went left to right, well, top to bottom in this case, or left to right, whichever way. But it's slightly distressed looking, and that is perfectly fine for this painting. The reason I say that is this is a farmhouse chicken, so it has that slight distressedness to it. If you want a completely smooth background, you're going to want to use your green again, or whatever color you're using, and put down a second coat. I am okay with the distressed look. In fact, I also know that my mom's kitchen is going to have that, has that distressed look. She has a farmhouse style kitchen. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our chicken and we are going to line it up where we want it. Okay, so he's looking pretty good right there. I have a little bit of space where I can tape him down at the top. And this is just to hold it in place so it does not move around too much while we're filling in our other color. Okay, just at the top there. Remember, this is where I cut in, so that's what that piece of tape is for. My antique white is already on my palette, so I'll be using this to fill in the chicken. I'm using my same 1-inch brush. It's dry right now, so you want to go ahead and dip it and dry off any excess water. We really don't want this to be wet, a wet brush. It'll smear everything. So you're just gonna dip in your paint, and you can hold it down on the paper, that's fine, and you're just gonna pull in from the edge to give your first coats. So you just pull in, filling in your chicken. So dip again, hold it down slightly, and pull inward. This is going to be our first layer. So just hold on the paper and pull inward. Dip into your paints and pull inward. You can just then take and fill in your center portions, but we're going to fill that in as well here in just a few minutes. So holding onto your paper, just start at your edge and pull inward. Now this is just computer paper. This is not any fancy paper. It's the same paper you would have printed this off with at home. It's just, you know, your standard run-of-the-mill computer paper. Nothing fancy. I'm just going to hold that part. So his tail is going to be a little weird right here because our paper buckled. That's okay though. Like I said, it's a farmhouse chicken. Distressed is okay. So now we're just going to fill in this portion here. You can use the same crisscrossing strokes. Okay, so then your green is going to start showing through as it dries slightly. You can just come back in and add another layer. So just keep pulling in. You always want to pull in, not away. So if you pull away, your line will go away. That's blocking, the paper is masking. So as green spots start to show through, I'm just going to pop a little bit more of the antique white over the top. Okay, so we're not going to sit here and watch this dry. But what you're going to do is you're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. Look at it every now and then. Do you need to fill in any more spots with the cream or antique white or whatever color you're using? If you look closely, I will have to fill in right there. Some green is starting to pop through. So then I'll just take my brush, dip it in my paints, and fill in that spot. A lot of that is from where the paintbrush might lift up, leaving a divot or so. Once you have about 3 coats on your chicken, you want to let it dry for 5 minutes. At least, if not 10. You want it to be almost completely dry before we remove the stencil. We'll be back. Okay guys, so we've taken a glance at it, make sure there's no glaring green spots showing through. And so now is the time for our big reveal. Okay, so you are going to very slowly, very carefully take from the bottom of your chicken and start lifting up. Oh, this is a nice little surprise from my ink. It is not paint soluble, I guess is the word. If you look, I have some lovely blackish spots from where my ink was. So that probably is going to happen to you too, possibly. Why not? I don't know, maybe. It's fixable though. It's fixable. Remember how we talked about we were going to freehand this spot right here when we cut out our chicken? Between the legs there, we're going to add some green. So we're going to do that, and we're going to clean up these spots. So we don't need our big brush anymore, which I've been painting something else. So that is why it has cream on it, or the antique white. We're going to use a round brush, and you want to use a thinner round brush. This is a 5, and it's only 5 millimeters in diameter. You're going to get it wet and then dry it off. You don't have to get it super dry, but you do want it dry. We're going to start with anywhere we may need to add cream. And I don't see anywhere I would want to add cream. So I'm going to dip back into my green mixture. And I'm just going to kind of roll my paintbrush back and forth because I don't want tons of paint on here. And I want a sharper points. So then you're going to come in and you're just going to use small, teeny, tiny paint strokes, filling in any areas to clean up where maybe the cream or antique white or whatever color you used seeped under the stencil. But remember, this is a farmhouse chicken, so it's okay if it's a little distressed. So you're just going to come in and you're going to use a thin brush and you're going to trace out those lines. Anywhere that you might want to cover up, like here in his tail, I have a lot of spots where the paper, actually that one was paper still. So let me just take a double check here and make sure none of that's actually paper. So I am going to grab a craft knife to see what we can do here. See if any of that's actually paper. So I'm going to pull it up nice and close. Okay, so these dark spots are actually paper. Paper fragments. That was paper. Okay, so it's not that, oops, be careful when doing this. So it's not that the ink transferred with the paints. It's that some of the paper actually like pulled away. So this is actually all paper fiber. And you don't want to paint over that because it will pull up and make your painting look weird. So I'm just going to use a craft knife and I'm going to scrape some of that away. If you do not have a craft knife, you can use the bottom, you should be able to use the bottom edge of a paintbrush and just kind of scrape it up. Okay, so you're just going to go along the edge there, pulling up any paper fibers. And honestly, you could even just use your fingernail. Being careful to not pull up any paints while, oops, that spot was wet. Check that out. Do you see that? That's smeared. So I'm just going to pull up any of these paper spots. The craft knife is working easiest, obviously, since it's got a nice sharp point. Okay, so those are all cleaned up. Go back sideways. Sorry about moving that around so much on you. But so we're going to come back in with our green, and now we're going to just clean up. Carefully filling in any spots where we want to cover any mishaps. Now you will see that my current green appears to be a lot lighter than my previous green. We're going to come in and we're going to fix that too. The appearance of that. So I want to make sure when I'm doing the tail that I'm pulling down all the way to the base of the tail. And I'll come in and fix that with some antique white. Reason is we're going to blend that away to make sure that we have our nice, uniform-ish coloring. Sorry that my arm's in the way, but I am just coming in and filling in this part right here. Just cleaning up any spots where the antique white got under the stencil, where the paper may have discolored it a little. One thing that you can do to prevent the paper from sticking is you could just cut the stencil out of wax paper or parchment paper, utilizing the printed version as your stencil to cut your stencil. Okay, I'm going to have to actually probably come in over the top here. All right, so I've fixed all of my green spots. I'm going to rinse off the green from the thin brush, and I'm going to come in with the antique white, and I'm going to fill in the spot that's squared away. Okay, so there is our chicken. So the last thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to blend away some of this green so it doesn't look as fresh and new and lined. Okay, so you're going to take another flat brush, or if you have an angled brush, that will probably work best. But you can just use a flat brush. So you're just going to pick up some of your green. This brush is dry, okay, because we are going for that distressed look. And you're going to, where you painted some of your green at the edge, you're just going to pull that towards the closest edge. And then just toss in some other strokes to make it all fit together. So here I put in a bunch. I'm just going to pull sideways to blend that into the other color, and then I'm going to go back and forth in the open spot to blend in the color. So that is why we came down below our chicken, to make sure we could blend it out the best. So just going to add some streaks here. That was a little bit too much. It's all right though, just kind of get close to the chicken with that one. So we have a lot up here at the top. I'm going to pat some of that off. Okay, so we're just going to kind of come in like that. We have some here in the middle, so I'm just going to pull towards the middle, blend that in. Then we have another section right here. That's a lot of paint. So just going to pull it to blend that out. I'm going to add some of the, if I can get to the darker part. Using my brush in an up and down like this so that it is thinner, but then when I need to, I can go back to the flat side. Okay. So just work your way all the way around your chicken. You can come back in and clean up any spots that you might want, like this right here. I don't like how bumpy that is, so I'm just going to take my green and I'm going to kind of smooth that away. Just going really slowly along the edge of my chicken. And then because that's a kind of fresh line, I'm just going to take my flat brush and pull it to the side. The last thing you want to do is dip your thin brush into the water, not rinsing it off, not drying it off. You're going to pull your antique white or whatever color your chicken is, dip in paint, twist it on the side. I realize I'm not doing that on camera. So you're dipping it in your water, dip it in your paint, and then twist over here. You want a thin paint right now because you're going to assign your painting. So I am going to turn this because I have been painting sideways, and I'm just going to sign it down there in the bottom corner. Rinse everything off. And all you need to do now is let it dry and give it, an hour or so to completely dry, and then hang it up on your wall. Okay guys, so I hope you had a great time with your first at-home painting party painting. Here is the chicken. Here he is, all signed, mostly dry. We just finished him up, so he's not completely dry, but mostly dry. And there he is. Then you can just, once it's dry, hang him up on the wall. Seeing that it has the comb, it probably is more so a rooster than a chicken. But it looks great, and I can't wait to display him. I hope you guys had a great time, and make sure you check out that special offer so that you can get some fun paint at home courses so that you can have your own gallery wall as well of art that you created. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you when I see you.